AJ Styles' WWE deal is apparently running out. Concern over WWE's new Evolve project. WWE changed Ricky Starks' name. And more. I'm Ollie Saints, and this is the WrestleTalk News.
Support WrestleTalk!
Like my proctologist always tells me, it's not the size of the ring that counts, it's how many cool moves you can do inside it. But AEW oddly experienced their own ring problems over Grand Slam weekend, where a small but vocal portion of wrestling fans criticised the company for using a fractionally smaller ring than normal on their Australia-based event. AEW and WWE both use 20 by 20 foot rings. These are relatively massive. WCW used to use 18 by 18 feet ones, which is a reason why their cruiserweight matches felt so fast-paced. Most independent promotions in the US also use 18 by 18. Over here in the UK, the standard is 16 by 16 because our scout huts are smaller. So rather than lug a 20 by 20 foot ring from the US to Australia, AEW apparently sourced the best local ring they could find, Go Environment, which was an 18 by 18 one. And I guess because the show ended up being really great, some people had to find something else to critique. Or maybe it's all just a matter of perspective, as legendary AEW tag team The Outrunners have now revealed. Breaking news! Inside sources confirmed the ring wasn't smaller, it just looked that way when Los Outrunners were in it. WWE wrestlers and fans are going to have to get used to rings other than 20 foot across, because Triple H has just unveiled the next step in his evil plan for world domination. I mean the large corporation's totally benevolent grassroots scheme. Because NXT has now gotten so big it needs its own NXT, WWE will be launching a new brand called Evolve on the 5th of March. Ironically, using the Evolve name that was once a thriving indie promotion in the 2010s that WWE purchased and then shuttered for 5 years. The show will be broadcast on Tubi in the US and on YouTube for the rest of the world, and it will have its own male and female champions, bringing WWE's total number of active title belts to 21. For comparison, AEW, including their ROH brand, has 15. The most Machiavellian, I mean interesting part of WWE's new Evolve project, though, is how it ties in to their ID development scheme. When that was first announced last year, it was hailed as an incredibly positive step for the industry, providing independent wrestlers a pathway from starting out at approved training schools, doing their first shows, and then potentially being picked up by WWE. Signees would get financial opportunity and assistance with training, mentorship, and development. For an occasionally dodgy business at the bottom level, having WWE-approved schools could be an important step into making professional wrestling safer for everyone. But then it was announced wrestlers signed to the ID scheme would have matches with stakes on the independent scene, which Triple H has now confirmed is to do with the ID title belts, which in typical WWE style has the name of the belt in massive letters slap bang in the middle. The first WWE ID champions will be determined in a tournament across the top independent wrestling promotions. The WWE ID championships will then be defended on the indies. The concern is that WWE won't let their ID champions lose when they appear on independent level shows, which limits what those promotions can book. It's essentially the old NWA championship in the territory system. The difference there was that all the wrestling promotions involved voted on who the champion would be. Here, it's one giant company imposing who they want to push on the rest of the industry. It could work out. It could elevate the US independent scene by being attached to WWE. But there is a long history of it never working in similar ways before. Like how WWE's NXT UK project essentially gutted this country's thriving business even before the pandemic. Over in WWE's no longer really a developmental system NXT, while it's not the most viewed brand, it's kind of become the hottest under Shawn Michaels' booking, with it consistently hugely beating ratings expectations since it moved to the CW late last year. The most recent influx of talent was the shock debut of Ricky Starks on last Tuesday's episode, who was reportedly only released from his AEW contract the day before. He only appeared briefly in the crowd on that episode, so this week we had a full in-ring segment with Ava, where he signed his NXT contract for his new name, Ricky Saints. Saints spoke on Busted Open Radio afterwards, explaining the re-gimmick. It's as close as you're going to get to Starks. I like the name. It's going to take time for them to get used to it. I respect that they care so deeply about me that they rebel against the name change. But at the same time, I am a product of New Orleans, first and foremost, and I want to pay respect to that as well. I think that this is the best of both worlds, and that means a lot to me. But Saints by name isn't necessarily by nature, as he then went on to talk about his frustrating final years in AEW. I can't tell you exactly what the moment was. You could say it was Punk leaving and things kinda fell apart. Absolutely, I'd probably agree with you on that, alright? Or you could say that Ricky didn't play the politics well enough. Alright, for sure. There's so many things you can say. What I can say for myself is that when I got hurt in March, that was it. I never came back. And even then, I wasn't hurt. It was a precaution thing where I got scared as I had a stinger. Then I was fine. After that, no. No dice, no communication, no nothing. I don't know explicitly where it went wrong. I can't point to one thing. I can say it was a storm of things probably. Did I do something that may have tipped them off? Sure. Asking for my release whenever, this past whatever, that could have been about it, right? But never once was I not willing to do something. Never once was I sabotaging anything. Last year, it was reported Ricky rejected the idea of his tag team partner Big Bill turning heel on him. It's unknown where that creative pitch came from, but it seems Saints became frustrated with some of the more senior wrestlers on the roster. I will say this, there are some people who stuck their nose in my creative business that shouldn't have happened. Veterans. And that's it. I'll leave it at that. And if they got a problem with me, they got my number and text me about it. I think what it was is if it didn't work for their creative, then someone had to get the boot. That's how I see it, but I'm not trying to be negative in my thought process about it. If you want to step on me to get ahead in your illustrious career, everyone has an illustrious career. Everyone should have an illustrious career. That is perfectly fine. But at the same time, I'm not wet behind my ears. NXT have confirmed Saints' debut match will take place on next Tuesday's episode, where he'll team with Javon Evans against Wesley and fellow AEW alumni Ethan Page. But that's not the only huge story head chef Sean has got cooking. The No Quarter Catch crew called out the TNA Tag Team Champions Matt and Jeff Hardy also on this episode. The Hardys replied in a video on social media where they confirmed they'll appear on next week's show in a match against them. This will be the Hardy Boys' first WWE appearance as a team since their SmackDown tag title run in 2019. But the most exciting was the shock appearance of TNA's X Division champion Moose, who came out in the opening segment of NXT to challenge over Femi for his title. Femi accepted, but an official date wasn't given. In the meantime, Moose will defend his X Division title against Lexus King on next week's episode. Before I get into this video's final story about AJ Styles' WWE status, here's a very special message from Turbo Jack. Our latest wrestler Turbo Jack on the road to Turbo Mania. We're in a day now. New York's gonna call old Turbo Jack in for one last match. And a day. Manifest! Manifest! Manifest the call! While Turbo Jack waits, all you turbs should go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, where you can watch the whole complete breakup of the Shield series with Luke and Ollie. And if you support at the $30 tier, you get a shout out from Turbo Jack on this very show. Muscle, like Big Jiggy Josh Martin. Born to Do It, Evan Shibley. Abominable, Michael Abbott. The Machine Gun, Alex Anderson. He's a sexy man. Sexy man. And you gross man. Gross man. Born and Brummy, Brett Linfoff. And let go Ace. The Ace of Spades, Adrian Santil. And the Cleaner, Kenisha. Go to patreon.com/WrestleTalk right now to get your own shout out and loads of bonus videos. AJ Styles returned to WWE from an ankle injury at the Royal Rumble, after which he was quickly drafted to the Raw brand. Ever since, he's been building an Intercontinental title feud with Bron Breakker, including catching Bron's torn-off shirt while not even looking at it. It was awesome, but AJ's injury and return has overshadowed his contract status backstage, as Fightful is reporting his WWE deal is due to expire in the next few months. And it's a significant enough situation that external companies seeing if they can book him. As for whether he re-signs, I know that people in the convention scene, the merchandising scene, all that stuff, were definitely inquiring about the possibility of him being available soon. By the time he got injured, from what I understood, it was only a matter of months before his contract was up. Fightful did note that it's a pretty solid possibility that AJ would re-sign with WWE, but they are unsure about what his priorities are right now. AJ has been saying since 2019 that the deal he signed back then would be his last, as he wants to focus on his family and be there for his kids. He'll be turning 48 this year. Fantasy booking pitch, it's all a ruse, and he shows up in TNA. Mine and Luke's epic WrestleMania 28 review is out this Sunday, so catch up on our WrestleMania 27 review with maybe the worst WrestleMania main event of all time by clicking the video on screen now.